Dyslexia is a disorder that affects millions, often leaving bright minds behind in a system that doesn't understand their needs. Without action, children born with dyslexia can face lifelong struggles.
Dyslexia is a pervasive problem in the school system, and I don't think it's addressed. It's not diagnosed enough. The number of students in our school system who are not diagnosed and who do not get the remediation that they need really makes for poor citizens. We see them getting into trouble, becoming juvenile delinquents, going to prison, and that's a shame.
One way that the state of Texas determines how many beds they will need in prisons in 20 years is by third grade reading scores. The number of children that fail those tests or perform poorly, unfortunately, end up having a lot of other peripheral problems. So if we can solve the reading problem with these children, I think we solve a lot of other problems that are pretty significant and serious.
The reality is there's two groups of individuals that are truly affected with dyslexia. We all know and hear a lot about our entrepreneurs, our artists. That's a big group of population that are very successful. And unfortunately, the back end of that, the second biggest group that's affected, is our prison system.
It is amazing how this disability impacts so many lives in our community. So many parents have a tremendous need, and family members as well. They have such an empathy for their family members and the students. This is an unmet need.
It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. We know what to do. That's the most frustrating thing, is that we know exactly what to do, we just choose not to.
I had an experience with a child that had dyslexia and saw all of the heartache that they went through growing up, the social emotional damage that occurs when they can't read. They had to have a classmate read to them for the first 8 years of school. Seeing that there was a way forward for children to avoid those heartbreaks is what spurred me on with the techniques that Tammy knows and her talents to support the Dyslexia School of Houston. When Tammy wanted to do summer school for the kids, I said, grammar camp? Really? What kid's gonna wanna spend their summer in grammar camp? They come in the first day, they're on task every day, all the time. They're so happy to be there. And they want to learn. And Tammy's able to facilitate that. And it's the most important thing that we do.
First day when I met Tammy, I had told her that I struggled reading also when I was a kid. And I never tested well. And when I read things, it's hard to retain what I read, and I have to sometimes reread it 2 or 3 times to comprehend what I just read. And Tammy was like, ooh, you're a smart dyslexic. I'm like, what? Nobody's ever told me I was dyslexic. I didn't ever realize I had a learning disability until very recently. But I went through and graduated and have 3 college degrees, but on a psychocognitive assessment, it showed that I have an 8th grade reading level. But if I had gotten accommodations for, say, extra testing time or something, it would have made a whole world of difference. So I'm glad that they have services like this for my kids, because I don't want them to go through life feeling insecure about who they are and what they're able to accomplish. At the end of 1st grade, she could barely read some sight words, and her 1st grade teacher wasn't understanding her school district right now. It's a headache. At the end of 1st grade, she could barely read sight words, and we did the summer school program at the Houston Dyslexia School with Tammy. Even halfway into the summer school program, she was reading everything. So it opened a whole world of reading for her. She went from not so confident to extremely confident. So she could read everything and anything, right, Alex?
Yeah.
Without the school, I don't know where we would be. We're seeing a lot of progress at the Houston Dyslexia School.
One of the first ones from our garage apartment was a student named Thomas. And Thomas came on, and Thomas wouldn't look at you. He wouldn't engage with you. He was discussing self-harm, and within 6 months, he was on a program with Harris County Education Department. We were worried about him being able to read and perform. He went, he read, he marched back in, standing up, and said, "How'd it go?" He goes, "I read."
We were able to have our growth raised to serving over 160 children. We decided that we were going to take a big step. We knew with the amount of children that were needing services that we were filling a huge need for the Houston community.
Educating the educators will spread the ability to effectively deal with the students. If we can clone Tammy and make 100 Tammys out there, then the effect will be multiplied thousands of times over.
Too many teachers, they've heard of dyslexia, but they are not aware of the nuances of the approach that works, the scientifically based program that will remediate and address the needs. Until teachers recognize that and are trained, I think that we're going to continue to have problems.
We had this great idea that I would go back to my original training through Scottish Rite for Children and talk about an opportunity to collaborate where we could send our future therapists for development. And the more we spoke, it just kind of grew of why would we send them away when we could do something that doesn't exist here in Houston. So we have replicated the training center and lab school. The lab school will serve for the students that will still receive the dyslexia therapy, as well as our adults will be able to have opportunity for their own development and become our future therapists. And when you multiply a number, then we can start sending out into the community and serve in areas that can't afford the services. The most important thing with our mission is to reach every kid, regardless of zip code and income and so forth and so on, because ultimately I do not believe that a family should ever have to pay for a child to be literate in America.
One only has to see the effect on the children from the time that they come in, hanging their head, not making eye contact, and being so sad about themselves. And 6 months later, they're normal children, happy about themselves. One of the most emotional moments that I recall was when my daughter could read for pleasure. She finally got to the point where she could have fun reading stuff, and I want that for other children.
We've made great progress helping children with dyslexia get the support they need to thrive, but we can't change lives alone. Whether it's through donations to our fundraiser or by spreading the word that there is a solution out there, you can be the one that helps a dyslexic child get the help they deserve.
We appreciate the opportunity to partner with the Dyslexia School of Houston and Tammy and her entire team, both as a Rotarian and as a business owner. I think they're doing a wonderful job in meeting an unmet need in our community, and we wish them the best and Godspeed in their endeavors.
I'm involved in a lot of things on the nonprofit side, but this is one that I think you can have an immediate impact in our community. This is important, and it's one that's very impactful.
I wish all of our donors could see the difference that it makes in just a few months with the children. Everybody would give and give freely if they could see the difference that it makes in children's lives.